Hey Colts fans, I'm JJ Stankovitz, and welcome into another episode of the Colts Show, an Indianapolis Colts podcast. We are presented by our friends at Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC. Awesome episode coming up today. I had a long conversation with should-be Hall of Fame kicker Adam Vinatieri. We had a chance to sit down, talk about the Hall of Fame, how he views the process of trying to become the third kicker to be inducted into Canton. In my opinion, it should be this year. It should have been last year, but whatever. We also got into how he watches games, some stories from his career. My favorite one that we got into, if you remember the commercial, Split the Uprights with Adam Vinatieri, a Snickers commercial. He's got a great story about that. Without further ado, let's get to my conversation with former Colts kicker Adam Vinatieri right after this. The Colts Show is presented by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC, where every day is game day. Greatness in the NFL starts long before kickoff. It's built in the quiet hours of preparation and the discipline to turn insights into action. The Indianapolis Colts rely on Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PCs to turn preparation into performance. With real-time AI-powered insights right on the sideline, coaches and players can make smarter, faster decisions when it matters most. From the field to the front office, Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PCs are transforming how the Indianapolis Colts prepare, strategize, and win. This isn't just about football. It's about unlocking potential wherever the game is played. It is my pleasure to be welcomed here on the Colts Show by former kicker Adam Vinatieri, future Hall of Fame kicker Adam Vinatieri. Let's hope this year, right?
Hopefully.
How you doing?
Doing well. Doing really well. Thanks for having me on today.
It's exciting to have you on here. I know Hall of Fame stuff is going to come out later this month with finalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2026. I want to ask you, though, how do you digest the process? Because everyone else talks about it, and should Adam Vinatieri get in on the first ballot? Should he, be the third kicker in the Hall of Fame, whatever it is? How do you handle it?
Honestly, I don't really pay attention unless, when I know that they've went from 145 to 75 to 50, whatever, I usually find that out when somebody texts me and says, "Hey man, congratulations." And I'm like, thanks for getting to a next step, but I haven't got all the way there, So Reggie and I kind of have, last year when we were both kind of to the finals and neither of us made it, we kind of talked through it a little bit, hey, have you got the phone call? And when I got the phone call telling me that I didn't make it, Reggie didn't get it, for a week later. So I thought for sure he was in. I was like congratulating him before, and then it ended up not being that way. But honestly, I mean, you can sit there and think and worry and dream about and all that stuff. It'll take its course the way it does. I've been very, very blessed to play a long time and be with some amazing coaches and amazing players and all that stuff. So I've got a hope that at some point I'll make it, like we all hope, But if it happens this year, I'll be super excited about it and be doing cartwheels. Well, I can't really do cartwheels, but as close to that as I can. Uh-huh. But it's just it's just one of those things that it's just. Acknowledgement of a pretty good career, really good career at the end, and I honestly, the only thing I can say about that is, I made a bunch of kicks, but the guys in front of me and the guys around me are the reason why I was on the field to start with. So, it's a huge honor. It's a huge honor for my teammates as well, because I couldn't do it without them.
I'm curious, when did you realize that you could be a Hall of Famer? When did that thought enter your brain?
The year in New England when the Snow Bowl game and then kicking the first game winner in the Super Bowl, and then fast forward 2 years later and I kick another one in the Super Bowl again, I think at that point a lot of the analyst, reporter people started being like, that's big stuff. This is like unprecedented things that you're accomplishing at this point. And at that point I felt like, man, I've only been in the league for 8-10 years.
Right.
My book's not even halfway written yet, So I felt like I just needed to keep stacking. And it wasn't ever about that. It was always about trying to help my team win games every year. Once you've been on the top of the mountain, once you've won a Super Bowl, there's nothing like it. It's very, very addictive. And it's like, man, the feeling fades really quickly, unfortunately. You're only the world champ for a short amount of time, and then 6 months later the season starts again, and you're the defending, but it doesn't matter. So you're always trying to – I remember Brady saying at one point, and I kind of cloned it and said, hey, I'm going to use that line too. But he always said, what's his favorite Super Bowl? It's the next one. And that's kind of how you feel about it, because once you've had it, you won it again. And fortunately for me, my rookie year, we played in the Super Bowl. We lost it to the Green Bay Packers. Brett Favre got his first Super Bowl, and I was like, man, it was my rookie year. I was naive. I had no idea. I'm like, man, this isn't that hard. We'll be back again. And it took 6 years to get there again. And so I think at that point I started just to enjoy the process, or even the game itself. I sat there and I was like, I'm going to stay focused on my job. I want to do a good job, but I also kind of want to soak it in, soak in the excitement, because Super Bowl for fans is one thing. For players, it's just a stressful game, right? You're really sitting there going, don't screw up, win this game. There's a lot of emotions, and you have media day every single day, and a million media guys are saying, hey, Scott Norwood, he missed a field goal. What do you think about, so they're trying to sabotage your thoughts. So, there's so many times during that week that you're thinking and dreaming about that game-winning kick, and then when you get the opportunity, then you just have to just wipe your mind free and just really focus in on the process and your job, and knowing, hey, this 48-yard field goal from the right hash, how many times have you kicked this before? 1,000, no, 100,000 times. Just rely on the guys up front and the guys that are doing the job around you, and then just do your job. And I guess when it leaves your foot and you see it going through the middle, there's no feeling quite like that.
What is the night before the Super Bowl like for a kicker?
I would assume it's probably the same for everybody, but you don't get a lot of real good sleep. It's restless sleep, right? You're tossing and turning because you're just reliving the game over and over and over in your mind. I probably kicked a game-winning Super Bowl 1,000 times, the night before the game, just hoping that I had the opportunity to have that situation, right? So, people ask me, would you rather have it come down to a kick at the end? Honestly, probably winning by 45 points and being done at halftime and just waving to your family in the crowd and all that. I mean, that's less stressful. But I look back at the few opportunities that I had in Super Bowls, and I wouldn't trade that for the world.
That first year you're in Indy, obviously that's the Colts Super Bowl year. You had just left New England. When you got here, like the Patriots were the team the Colts hadn't got past. Right. They were the kind of the last barrier.
Right. Yeah, right.
What was that like, kind of going to the other side of it? Did you get questions from teammates, from people about why did you leave? What's it like over there? And then how did you see that team then kind of overcome it? Not just once, but twice that year.
Well, a lot of teams, obviously, when you have continued success for a team, a lot of other teams are trying to maybe cherry pick a player or two just to have that aura in the building, or hey, what do you guys do that is allowing you guys to continue to win games? So, Coach Mr. Polian reached out to me and said, we want you on a team, and it worked out really well. But that whole season, I always looked at it, because like you said, most of the AFC Championship games were Colts versus the Patriots, and to that point, the Patriots have kind of had the winning edge every time, and went to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. And so I think Mr. Polian, at that point when there was an opportunity and an opening for the kicker spot, he wanted me, and I was happy to come here. So it's funny because we end up fast forwarding. Well, and throughout the season, there's a lot of questions and how do you guys prepare for games? What do you do differently? And it only makes sense to ask people that have been to the top of the mountain, how do you get there, kind of thing, right? What did you guys do? What's the differences? And Peyton and I had a lot of different conversations about what the Super Bowl week should be like. No curfews, or when should people on your floor at the hotel, or is it just for players? And we always came from a very strict spot, and so I think Peyton's conversations with me, he made sure that we were going to have every opportunity that we could to win the game. And honestly, that year, I think the most exciting game for me, maybe even slightly more than playing in the Super Bowl, was that AFC Championship game when we played the Patriots and ended up winning and knocking them off of the pedestal, and us going to the Super Bowl. That was probably the most exciting, fun game I've ever played in. It was very emotional for me, coming from another team and coming here and being part of that. And then I think secondly, watching my teammates win their first Super Bowl, because I had won 3 prior to that. Not to say the fourth isn't just as fun. It is. It absolutely is. But watching my teammates get their first one, I just sat back and watched. And I get goosebumps right now thinking about it. I mean, smiling and giggling about it, because watching grown-ass men cry because they were so exciting is something special.
That game, well, stay on this thread here. You're kicking in the rain in Miami. Those conditions, I mean, I'm sure you'd kicked in bad weather before in your career. How did you handle the turf? Was there any consideration of that? Of, you know, you had to hit some big kicks in that game for the Colts to beat the Bears.
Well, it's for me, I learned early in my career, and I think that probably came from Coach Belichick, in always being prepared, right? Make sure you have the right shoes. You know, Miami at the time was a grass field, lots of rain, so it was a soggy, wet, slippery field. So, you know, I think I wore, you know, we call them shark tooth, but the big spikes in the heel, so your plant foot's not sliding and stuff like that. The weather made an outcome, made a difference in the outcome of the game for sure. It was hard to throw the ball, hard to catch the ball, hard to kick the ball, but I think we got it done for the most part. Yeah, it was.
I would say so. I would say so.
Yeah, it was a good outcome.
I want to go back real quick to one other thing about your time at the Patriots. So you're signed from the Amsterdam Admirals, and you come in, you know, it's your first shot in the NFL. In your second game, you went 1 for 4 on field goals, not to bring up a bad, you know, memory. How did you handle that? I mean, like, you wound up having this Hall of Fame career after that moment, but in that moment of going 1 for 4 in your second career game in the NFL, did any doubt creep into your mind?
Well, you know, that it's funny you bring up that game. It's Buffalo. Buffalo, you never have good conditions in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have the utmost respect for kickers and punters that sign with Buffalo. I'm like, glutton for punishment, buddy, because you're going to have crappy weather games more than not, right? So it was early in the season, so we didn't have snow, but we did have rain and wind and stuff like that. No excuse. I missed an extra point there, for cripe's sakes. I mean, like, you can't do stuff like that. And I remember Coach Parcells, I literally looked at our sideline, and it looked like his head was going to explode, and he's screaming at me, and I really wanted to walk to the other sideline at that point. But, you know, the following week, I remember him saying to the media, you know, our kicker is week to week, which I know what that means. I mean, that means if you have one more bad game, you're never going to be heard of ever again. And as a rookie, without having years of experience, it's not like another team's going to give you another opportunity probably. So I couldn't say that. I guess my whole career there's been pressure situations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the nature of the position, but the pressure was on full force right away at the beginning of my career, and I think that was good for me, because it made me realize to focus in, and hey, you know, this is not you. Missing 3 or 4 kicks in a game is not you. That's you know, you can't, if you sit there and dwell on that and think about that, it's going to affect you the next week. And, you know, 2 weeks later, I went 5 for 6 against Jacksonville and had a game winner at the end in overtime. And then it kind of was like smooth. I wouldn't say smooth sailing. It's never smooth sailing. You always have to continue to work and continue to do your job. But at that point, it was almost the switch got flipped, and then the rest of the season really took off well. And then I think at that point, and I think I just built a lot of confidence knowing that, hey, you can have a bad game. Everybody has a bad game. We're all human, but turn around and refocus in and get that monkey off your back and go back out there and start helping your team win games, not hurting your team.
Is that harder, though, for a kicker when you're only on the field for 6 plays, 10 plays a game, including kickoffs?
For sure.
To be able to say, yeah, I am going to go turn it around, as opposed to, like, getting tight and being like, crap, these, like, 4 kicks I have, I got to hit them.
Yeah, I think that's the worst part of it, is that you only have a handful of plays, right? So sometimes if you miss a kick, you might not be back out there for another 20 or 30 minutes, right? Depending on how the game goes and if your offense gets back into scoring position and stuff. So, you know, time is your enemy at times. You know, there's a lot of times that you want to just get back out there and go make that kick, and so, okay, now I'm good, right? But, you know, the worst part is when it's a kick at the end of the game and you have to wait 7 days, or the end of the season and you have to wait 6 months until, you know, that's when it really lingers on you and it really sits on you for a while. But you know, if you can't handle that, you probably need to find a different job, because that's the nature of our position.
I want to ask you, so this episode's coming out Monday, before the Colts play the 49ers on Monday Night Football. You're going to hit the anvil before the game. You're going to have the Win for Jim guitar with you is the goal.
Awesome.
And you're going to have the Win for Jim shirt on. A lot of it, for Mr. Irsay, right? What did Mr. Irsay mean to you as someone who was part of this organization for 10 and a half years?
14 years.
I meant a decade and a half.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, whoa, come on now.
Not 10 and a half, a decade and a half.
Yeah, I know I've said it before. Jim was an amazing man. I mean, he was so thoughtful, and so he did everything he could to help our team have whatever we needed to be successful, to win. He loved the team. He loved all the players. Like when he came and talked to you, he really it wasn't tongue in cheek. It wasn't like, I'm just starting a conversation. He really wanted to know, and that's when I remember it was me and Booger McFarland and a couple of guys that had played in Super Bowls before we got to the Super Bowl that year, and he called us into his office, and he was just like, listen, what can I do to help you guys? Like, I want to know, is there anything that I can do that can help us get over the hump? And so I don't necessarily know if every owner is that approachable and cares. I mean, they all care, but Jim just seemed to care about us even more so than anybody else that I've seen at that level. And I mean, you can see what he's done for the community of Indianapolis. I mean, he's so generous. There's so many things that I've heard now that he publicly did not publicly want people to know of. He just wanted to help people out. He wanted to help this church out. He wanted to help these people out. And it wasn't about getting his name in the newspaper. It was about he knew that he had the ability to help other people. And I mean, he just knew that he wanted to help people, and that's the one thing about Jim that I think is amazing. I mean, we all know the stories that he was picking up socks and jocks when he was a little kid in the locker room, so he saw it.
Johnny Unitas, yeah.
Every level, he saw it at every level, and so to be able to be the owner and have that personal level, to bring himself to the same level as everybody else, and just, hey, how can I help? And well, one silly little thing, the year 2019, I had season-ending knee surgery, and I happened to make the all-decade team, and my knee was still kind of messed up and swollen, and I just didn't want to get on a plane, and I didn't want to go through the headache and the heartache and the hassle and all that. And Jim's like, listen, you need to go. I'll send you my personal plane to go pick you up so it's easy. Like, things like that. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do stuff like that. You don't have to do that. But he was always the kind of guy that wanted to help everybody out, no matter who you were. It didn't matter if you were the first pick in the draft or if you were, cleaning toilets here. That was the kind of guy that he was, and I just we all miss him so much. There's always times that go by that just something sparks a memory, and you sit back and you think about the good old days, and he left us too soon.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any of those, like a memory that you might want to share of Mr. Irsay, whether it in just a conversation, a moment, one of the post-game, moments he had, anything that just kind of sparks your brain?
There's a lot of them. I think, we've all seen him dancing in the locker room after a win. Those are always the fun moments. He has a 5-hole golf course out here in our front here.
I've lost a lot of balls on that course.
Well, he did a nice fundraiser years back, and a handful of us guys got to play with a couple of the pros because the pros were here. They were playing at Crooked Stick, I think, for one of the pro tournament, whatever it is. And so he did a nice little thing to raise a bunch of money I think it was for Boys and Girls Club, I believe. I'm not positive on that. But I made a crazy shot and it was a makeshift hole. It wasn't even, it was a tee box to a different hole over the parking lot on the island green there. And some of the for the pros, 2 of them are on the green, one's in the water, one's off in the whatever. And they said, "Oh, you guys want?" I'm like, "I'll try, whatever, right?" And I hit a shot. One of the guys hit to like 12 or 14 inches. I think I hit to like 18 or 20 inches, right? Best shot of my life, probably, right? And it's a story about Jim, not about me. But it's funny because every time after that, when he introduced me, it was that golf shot. It was never about any kick I made or a Super Bowl win that we did or any of that stuff. It was always about that one golf shot. Oh, you should watch this guy hit golf balls, and I would just laugh because that was the one thing he always remembered about me more than any kick that I ever made. And but again, that little story that's so meaningless, but yeah, he was the type of man that hard not to love him because he was such a great man.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a story too about him knowing you personally,
right?
It'd
Absolutely.
be very easy for him to introduce you as Adam Vinatieri, the greatest kicker to ever play football. I love that. I love that this guy had a great golf shot that one time because he cares. That to me, even though it's a little thing there, that's an example of him caring about you just outside of you as a football player.
And some of his memory stuff, like you would talk to him and he would bring up something about, when I was rocking out with, just stories that it's so much fun just to be around him, just to listen to his stories and the things that he's been a part of, right? I mean, we all dream about doing fun stuff. I think Jim lived that every single day, and it was awesome.
All right, let's talk a little about this current Colts team. You'll be there Monday. Blake Grupe just did a 60-yard kick. That's a franchise record in Seattle.
Big kick.
What did you how did you watch that moment?
I was standing there watching, kind of like
standing, not sitting.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was definitely standing, kind of probably shaking a little bit, kind of, come on, man, and he just drilled it. That was awesome. Like, I hate the fact that there's still 50 seconds left on the clock after that. It's one of those things. It's like I wish it was time expires. He's banging the game winner at that way. Yeah, no, that was an amazing kick, and it's funny because I think I get more nervous watching other people now than I ever did when I was playing because I know what I can do, and when you're in it, you're focusing on your technique and the process of what you're doing. When you're standing there watching or sitting there watching games, I know watching my own kids and stuff when they play, I get more nervous for them than I ever got for myself. So watching Grupe hit that ball, that was pretty awesome.
So this year, kind of as a segue to that, there have been more 60-yard field goals made this year. The guy in Jacksonville hit a new NFL record.
Yep.
And there is a change this year in the process of getting K-balls ready for games.
Yep.
Real quick, just educate me and educate anyone who maybe doesn't know what we're talking about.
Yep.
What is a K-ball? What's the difference between a kicking ball and a regular football?
Well,
a cue ball.
The reason why I'll give you a little back history on it.
Yes, I love it.
I believe Mitch Berger was the kicker for the Vikings when Dante Culpepper was the quarterback there, and they were playing at home against the Green Bay Packers and Brett Favre. Now, Mitch is a friend of mine, and I know the story pretty well, but at the time, he was leading the league in touchbacks. It's back when we kicked off from the 30. So a lot of kickoff rules have changed, but he's setting records for hitting long touchbacks. And I'm like, dude. And he said, well, Dante doesn't care what we do to the balls, so I balloon them up like rugby balls, so they're really fat, and they fly really, really far. Well, Brett threw 3 or 4 picks in that game. Went to the media, blew up, and, this is BS. I can't throw these balls, and that was the invention of the kicking ball. Thereafter, right?
Okay.
Right after that, the next season they implement the rule for K balls. So it's exactly the same football, just with like a ironed K on it, and it's morphed over years. At the beginning, it was the referees brought those balls, and they were the only ones that could touch them. They inflate them and throw them out on the field, and they were terrible, absolutely terrible, because they didn't want to spend the time breaking in, rubbing the balls, getting the packing grease off, wetting them down with a towel. They didn't really want to do a lot of that. So we suffered for a few years kicking balls that just didn't travel the same way. Then it kind of morphed into, okay, we'll let the equipment guys have 30 minutes to the equipment guy from the other team and the equipment guy from our team. They can go into a room and they can work on the balls as long as the referees are watching. But back in the day, you say, what did we do? Well, we used to wet them down, and we would throw them in a bag, the laundry into the dryers, right? And we'd put a half wet bag, and the balls were soaked down. We'd throw them in the dryers and let them bounce around for 20, 30 minutes, and it would soften them up and balloon them up. I remember taking a 45-pound plate that you use when you're lifting and putting it on top of the ball and standing on it and bouncing and moving around just to stretch the ball a little bit more. Our quarterback, this was in New England before the K-ball rule kicked on, and our quarterbacks had to approve all of those balls. But after that, Green Bay game and that Minnesota Green Bay game, then it became kickers are only kicking balls and quarterbacks have their own balls. So there was never the only time that it would ever be would be like a mayday or an end of the game field goal when there's the clock's going down. They can't replace the ball. Then you would kick the quarterback ball. Otherwise, they're always getting a kicker ball in. Rumor has it they've taken all stipulations off the kicking balls this year, and they're like letting them do whatever they want to. So I would assume that they've gone back to making these things very fly a long way.
I have it here. This is from Kaylin Kaler at ESPN, and she wrote a story about this early in the season. It was after Vic Fangio was basically like, we gave up like a 56-yard field goal and like a 60-yard field goal, and he's like, it's because they changed the K-balls. There's not necessarily any data that indicates there's a difference there. But this year, or up until this year, teams only had 60 minutes to prep K-balls with water, towels, brushes, and tacky sponges. Yep. Now K-balls can be prepped before game day by the team. Now there are still stipulations where I don't think you can throw them in a dryer necessarily.
How would they know?
Well, great point. But there is an uptick in long field goals being made this year.
Yeah, for sure.
How does that all like impact, if you're doing stuff to the K-ball to get it ready for game day, how does that help you get more distance?
I'll explain it like a new pair of dress shoes that you buy right off the rack, and they're stiff and they're not very pliable and they're not very comfortable, right? Usually you want to wear them, for you women out there, a new set of high heels, right? They go, oh my God, these are killing my feet, right? After you've broken the shoe in, after you've worn it a bunch of times, the leather starts to stretch out and gets a little bit softer. Same thing with a football is the more you rub it with the brush or the more you're doing stuff. That's the reason why you wet it down with towels is because it takes off the packing grease and it soaks in the water, so it just loosens up the leather a little bit. And I'm not a physics major or anything, but I know the more pliable the ball is, the more it compresses, the more it will take off. And so I do know from before K-balls to when the referees were doing it, there was a 5 or 7 yard difference in distance on kicks. I mean, it was. I mean, you take the same kicker in two separate balls, you're going to get at least a 5 yard difference on a ball that's well broken in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When you think about like this Colts season and Blake Grupe being the one to come in and make that kick, he's the third kicker this year. The first kicker the Colts had, Spencer Schrader, was having a awesome fantastic season. Can you talk me through the way he got hurt? Like, because that to me is on a PAT. The guy ran into his leg and he tears up his leg. That didn't sit super well with me as someone who's just watching it from afar, but as a former kicker, how did you see that?
It didn't sit well with me either. It's one of those, I'm sure, and I know it was against the Raiders, and I know Tom McMahon is their special teams coach, and I know he would have never, ever taught a technique to do something wrong. It was unfortunately, the guy got too deep around the edge, and rather than flattening out and getting to the ball, he ended up going right into Spencer's knee, and when your foot's planted and somebody comes in, I mean, that's when bad things happen, and that's why they have the rules on a kicker or a punter when their foot is planted, they're basically a defenseless. I mean, they're the same as a quarterback. That's why they can't go low on a quarterback, right? So, that really, really sucked. I felt terrible for him because that's one of those things that. He's young and hopefully, and I'm sure he will be healthy and he'll get back out there and he'll have a great career. But yeah, you hate to see an injury like that should have never happened, right? I mean, you need to teach the technique, and I get it. It's coming down to a game. Hey, the points are very, very important. 3 points dictates the wins and losses of games all the time. So you're going a million miles an hour. You're trying to block that, but at some point you have to know when to pull off or when to, hey.
Yeah, it was a PAT and a blowout.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Like it was needless and careless, and it sucked. But hopefully I feel like there should be a bigger penalty, maybe fines, because. Hey, it didn't affect the outcome of the game, but it surely affected the career of a certain individual for sure.
It affected the outcome of the Colts season
for sure
in a way.
Yeah. if you go low on a quarterback, if you're taking out Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or any of these guys, you're getting a FedEx of a $50,000 fine for going low. I think it should be the same way with kickers. I really do.
You are still the oldest player to play for the Colts in franchise history, but Phillip Rivers is hot on your heels right now. Not far behind.
He's got to go another 3 years. So.
When you saw that, I know you didn't play with Phillip, but you saw his career, his entire career. What was your reaction to that? Like, how did you look at Phillip Rivers coming back at 44 to play quarterback for the Colts?
Well, it's less about his age and more about the time that he's been away.
Yeah.
Right. Like if it was 44, but he played last season, you'd be like, oh, okay, it's right there. The fact that, like, I think of myself, I've been out for 5 years now, and coming back, I'm like, holy moly! It's not like you don't forget, but things change. Your body changes, your timing changes, all that stuff. So this was a highly anticipated game. I know a lot of people watched. I know I was sitting there watching the whole time because I wanted to see how he did. I thought he managed the game really, really well. I mean, the analysts and the commentators made a lot of comments about his arm strength maybe not what it used to be. But the way I looked at it is he knows what he can do, and so he managed the game really well, right? Yeah. So, I mean, other than the interception at the very end of the game because we're trying to move down the field, I mean, played a pretty clean game, and I'm always rooting for the old guys. I'm the old guy. I got the gray hair too. So, I mean, I was like, man, come on, dude. And the fact that it was right there at the end that we were very well could have won that game, that was against Seattle too. I mean, they're a great team, a great defense. I mean, they're a really, really good team. So it wasn't like we're beating up on a team that was 2-10, right? So yeah, it was pretty awesome. I saw that Trent Richardson got or that Richardson got cleared now too. Yep. So it'll be interesting. But I think Phillips, it was a lot of fun to watch, and hopefully we get to see him in another game.
Yeah, I think we will. Shane Steichen said he's going to be the starting quarterback tonight. Yep. And we'll see where it goes. Yeah. I can't wait, personally.
Well, and he's going to have another tough battle, I mean, San Francisco is another really good team that's fighting for a playoff spot, that's got a good defense. So it's not like it's getting any easier. We have them and Jacksonville and Houston. I mean,
brutal end of the season.
It's a brutal season. Yeah, I think our ending of our season is as tough as anybody's out there. So we want to make the playoffs. We're going to have to play some good football.
Absolutely. Let's see if it happens tonight. All right, before we get you out of here, we talked some ball. We talked about Mr. Irsay. I want to ask you about splitting the uprights with Adam Vinatieri.
Okay.
So for those who may not know, Google it. Google Split the Uprights with Adam Vinatieri. It was a Snickers commercial from 2009.
Yep.
I told you before we started recording, it's like seared into my brain because in like 2009, I'm in college and I'm watching football. I'm watching college football, whatever, and it's on all the time.
Right.
Split the Uprights with Adam Vinatieri. You kick a ball that knocks a satellite down to earth.
Right.
Can you tell me the genesis and the story behind that commercial?
Yeah, well, Snickers was doing a lot of different tongue-in-cheek or pun kind of things, and they invited me to do that one. I was like, oh, absolutely, this will be great, right? And it turned out really cool. I think the one thing that when they started showing it, my teammates really got a kick out of it. And then the next question right thereafter is, hey, man, where's my candy? Where's the candy bars at, right? And so I purposely told them, and they asked if you want product, I'll send you a bunch of product. I'm like, I don't need 800 Snicker bars in my house. My waistline does not need that. I said, I appreciate it, but do not send me any because if you do, I'll eat them. No. So anyway, long story short, it was a bunch of the guys. Gary Brackett was one of the first guys that said, hey man, where's the Snicker bars? So after I got, beat up a little bit over that, I called my contact out there and I said, hey, do you mind, sending out, some of my teammates want some and, whatever. They sent me like a big full display, and the UPS guy brought boxes that were, I would say like a case had 24 and there was probably 12 or 15 boxes per big box. They brought 50 boxes of that. 50.
That's like one for each player on the team.
Ridiculous amount. Like my wife's like, what did you like? The UPS guy is bringing, the trolley.
This got delivered to your house?
Yeah, it got delivered to my house.
Doug Melton's not bringing it around in his tug net back there?
No. It got delivered to the house. My wife calls me and she's like, I don't know what you did, but the entire foyer is full of boxes here, right? And so I see it. I bring in the display, set it up, box, and guys are just coming and just taking, whoops, sorry. They're taking all these different, guys are taking 100 bars at a time. John Tureen was our strength coach. He comes in, he's like, dude, what are you doing to me here? You're killing me. Like, you're making my job harder. I'm like, I don't want it in my house. These guys wanted this stuff. So I just thought that was hilarious, and it happened to be right before Halloween too. So we started a family tradition that we gave full-size candy bars out at our house, and it happened to be Snickers that year. And then every year after that, my wife said, hey, we can't do it one time and not the. I didn't continue to call them and getting more product. We just bought the full-sizers after that.
How long did it take to film that commercial?
Ironically enough, we had weather that came through, so it started raining, so we'd have to, okay, we got to wait an hour. So it was an all-day thing. It was entertaining, though, to say the least. It was pretty cool. I thought the end product was pretty awesome.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, the satellite falling always just kills me every time.
Yeah.
How many balls do you think you kicked that day, to do it?
That's a good question. I wouldn't even have 20.
No,
Probably not
bad.
that many,
Yeah,
because each time they're doing it, and then, hey, can you do a little bit like this, or can the ability of CGI or whatever can make the trajectory look a little different or whatever. So they got it done pretty well, but I thought it was pretty awesome.
All right, last one. What is the weirdest thing you've ever kicked in your life, or the weirdest place you've ever been asked to kick something?
There's been a lot of different ones. Probably one of the strangest things is early in my career, they were doing a Marsh grocery store was doing this big giveaway thing, and they had me kicking fruitcakes at Christmas time. The fruitcake, yeah. Ridiculous, but it worked out good. I think they raised some money and they donated a bunch of food. So that's probably the craziest thing that I got asked to kick.
So Jordan told this story once. Michael Jordan told this story about how, I think I don't know if I'm going to get it 100% right, but he was renting an Airbnb, and maybe it was for the Masters or something. And the owner of the place is like, hey, can you shoot a shot? They have a basketball hoop there. And it was him and his son. And I think the way Jordan put it is that's the most stressful shot of my life, because it's I've got to do the thing that I'm known for.
Right.
Would that stress you out now? If you went out to Zionsville High School and they said, okay, can you go kick a field goal for this entire crowd? Would that stress you out more than kicking in a Super Bowl?
I would definitely want a few practice kicks before I went out there and did it.
That's the thing. He said he didn't have any warm-up. It was just, you got to hear basketball shoot.
Did he make the shot?
I think he did.
Oh,
because he's Jordan.
He's Michael Jordan. Yeah, of course he did. Yeah, that's one of those, now, I did have to kick a rugby ball at a big horse polo thing one time. It was up in Zionsville. They have a big polo garden, and they were doing something, and they wanted me to kick a rugby ball because they were having some big rugby thing. So that was a little bit, because it was the first time I had kicked a rugby ball, and tennis shoes on, you don't have your cleats, you're not dressed and warm. I do think I swung my leg and stretched out a little bit before that, just to hopefully not embarrass myself. But
did you make it?
They didn't really. They had two guys standing there, right?
Okay.
And so I kicked it between them. It was kind of not really an upright, but it was cool. It was fun. It was, I guess, more like the rugby, the point after, or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
So it worked out good though. But I think some of those moments is a little bit more if Pat asked me to kick one for $1 million during college game day, I would hope that I would make it. I would expect to make it, but I think I'd probably be nervous having all those people standing around. So some of those kids drastically miss, terribly bad, but every once in a while they make it too.
Is it in your retirement, you're known as Adam Vinatieri, the kicker, right? When you're maybe in a group or someone meets you, and all you're getting asked about is kicking. How do you handle that? As that's what you're known for.
Part of my life, That's part of the deal. I'm always excited to talk football and playoffs and Colts and kicking and whatever. That never bothers me at all. Sometimes now, as people are like, hey, are you AJ's dad? So now now great, because I have two boys that are playing football. One's in college and one's in high school. Now, some of the kids in high school, they obviously remember or know a little bit, but I've been gone a while enough that they start to not really remember, you as a kicker. You're more as dad or coach. I'm helping coach at Zionsville High School a little bit with the specialists and stuff like that. So now I'm more known as a coach than a kicker.
I mean, the dads on that team are stacked.
Yeah,
even Ty a little bit.
Yeah. We've had a few of them that have came and helped out and stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun being out there.
So you're coaching. How do you coach as someone who had so much success in the NFL? You knew your process. You knew what it took to do that. How do you disseminate that to like high school kids, or obviously with your own boys?
I'm very intense. I would say that like I'm not the. I was going to say I'm not the loud screamer, whatever, but when we're coaching, like I expect, and that's the thing that I always have to remember, I'm coaching high school kids. We're not in an NFL, where you see the best of the best athletes every single day.
You're not going to the media and saying we got a week-to-week kicker here.
No, I'm definitely not doing that. I stay away from the media there. It's all about trying to teach the kids technique and helping them learn a little bit more. And it's fun too, though, because when you watch them use the technique that you're teaching and then they have success and then they go, oh, he knows what he's talking about, and then they're like on every word, that to me is more rewarding than I've had a couple of the high school kids say, hey, can you write me a letter of recommendation because I'm trying to go to college at this. I'm like, that's an honor for me, because I feel like playing football puts you on a platform that people will listen to you to a certain degree, but what you do with that platform, and if we can change young people's lives and help them learn how to work a little harder, learn how to study their play, all these little things that they learn now will help them the rest of their life. I feel like we're teaching and changing young men, and I think that's probably the most rewarding part of it, way more than wins and losses.
One other thing, because I do actually want to follow this one more step. Someone told me once when I had kids that when you see your kids succeed, it's going to be more rewarding than any success you've ever had in your own life. And my kids are 6. Like, seeing them make a shot in, like, little kid basketball is like, that was amazing. That was so cool. Yeah. Your kids are older. They're playing football. When you see them having success, how rewarding is that for you as, their dad?
It's amazing. It really is. Like, I get so much pride and joy in watching them play. I also am probably the toughest critique too, right? Mm-hmm. So like I don't know if every other dad does, but we go on Huddle and we go back and we watch every play and we start critiquing that kind of stuff. And I don't know if every other dad does, probably not, but
not every other dad's going to be a Hall of Fame kicker.
Well, hopefully. But yeah, no, for me, it's just one of those things. I've learned the process through so many years of playing and watching film and critiquing and doing it right, that I'm like, you might as well, if you're going to play, if you're going to go out there and do it, you might as well be the best version of yourself. So let's learn how to do it right, and then the better you are, the more fun it is too, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But yeah, for me, I like I said, I get more nervous watching them. I get more joy watching them. I shouldn't say that. Kicking a game-winning Super Bowl kick brings a lot of joy. There's very few things that can bring that kind of joy, but watching my kids play is pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Adam Vinatieri, thanks for joining me here on the Colts Show. Really appreciate the time, man.
Been wonderful. Thank you.
All right, back here on the Colts Show, it's time to bring back the Colts Show mailbag. Remember, you can get your questions in. Send them to me on X, on Instagram. You can drop them in the YouTube comments of this episode, or go to colts.com/mailbag to submit them. This one comes from listener Julia Bokern. Excuse me if I pronounced that name incorrectly, Bokern or Bokern. Julia asks, I have a question for you. This probably is more of an off-season question, but do you think the Colts re-sign Daniel Jones even after his injury? Love watching the Colts Show every week. Thanks for watching and listening to Julia. There's a lot to get into here, thinking about Daniel Jones and what is next for the Colts. Obviously, this episode's coming out on Monday. Got the Monday night game with Phillip Rivers starting against the 49ers. We'll see how the season ends. The Colts did not sign Phillip Rivers to be a long-term solution at quarterback. So they're going to have a very large decision to make after the season, which they were going to regardless of if Daniel Jones finished out the season healthy or not. But I think a couple of things to think about here with Daniel Jones, because Julia specifically asks even after his injury. So I went back and I looked at Kirk Cousins, who is the most recent quarterback to hit free agency after tearing his Achilles during a season. So Kirk Cousins, at 35 years old in Week 8 of the 2023 season, tore his Achilles as the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. He then, that offseason, signed a 4-year mega deal with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Falcons, of course, went out and drafted Michael Penix Jr. in a shocking decision, to say the least, after signing Kirk Cousins to that deal. But Cousins came back, and he was cleared for day 1 of training camp. So that was about 9 months after the Achilles injury. Now, I don't know necessarily if Kirk Cousins, if training camp started on June 20th instead of July 25th, if Kirk would have been cleared then. That wasn't necessarily something I was able to dig up. But the point is, his recovery from Achilles tear and surgery to cleared for practice was 9 months. So I think we here in Indy are all, obviously, I'm certainly in this bucket, we're all scarred by Tyrese Halliburton, right? Where we see Halliburton go down in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and it's there goes his entire 25-26 season. Different sports, different requirements of what goes on that Achilles. I'll just, say that. And Daniel Jones, if you look at the Kirk Cousins timeline, where Kirk's 6 years older than Daniel, there's a chance that Daniel Jones is cleared for training camp. That might be a little aggressive. We don't know going into the rehab process, but there's a chance. It's not something we should just immediately rule out because Tyrese Halliburton had this. I think the more apt comparison is Kirk Cousins. And even then, Kirk Cousins, again, is 6 years older than Daniel Jones. So a lot to think about there. I would not be surprised, knowing what I know about Daniel Jones and the way that I guarantee you he's already attacking that rehab, that he's going to do whatever he can to be ready for day 1 in training camp. Now, will that be with the Colts? That is now kind of your other question here, which is probably a bigger one. Because if you look at Daniel Jones' season, he, up to that point against the Falcons, where that's when the fibula injury, the fractured fibula popped up, Daniel Jones, from weeks 1 to 10, led the NFL with 2,659 passing yards. He was top 10 in completion percentage and passer rating in that span, and the Colts had far and away the best offense in the NFL with Daniel Jones behind center, a healthy Daniel Jones behind center. I think you can look at this offense and you can make a delineation point from weeks 1 through 10 and then weeks 12 through 14, where things got kind of off the rails for the Colts offense, and they declined from leading the NFL in points per game to being bottom 10 in that stretch, where Daniel Jones was dealing with this fibula injury. And it was getting better. I think that's almost the cruel part, is that Jags game. I'm watching Daniel Jones out there, and I'm he's moving better than he has since the bye. And then he goes and does his Achilles, and that just, that I don't think that had anything to do with the fibula, by the way. Now, can you count on Daniel Jones to be healthy? If he's cleared, does that mean he's all the way back to Daniel Jones? That's another question. But the larger point here is that when Daniel Jones was healthy, he was playing very good football. And there are going to be quarterback-needy teams this year in free agency that are not only the Indianapolis Colts. So what does that lead the Colts to do in terms of, is this team a little aggressive? Do they let Daniel Jones test the market? I have no idea. I think, and then the last thing here I would just say, or two more things to consider, is Daniel Jones gained the complete respect of the Colts locker room from the moment he walked in the building. This wasn't it took him 4 months and showing it on the field. It's guys were talking about Daniel Jones back in the spring being this dude gets it. He is all over this team. He's the first guy in, all that. So he gained the respect. And then for him to go out and play through the fibula for 3 weeks, that took it to, it's you build a 60-story building and then you build another 60 stories on top of it. That's where it was in terms of Daniel Jones' respect in that locker room. The respect he has from the coaching staff, from Shane Steichen, the offensive coaches. This dude, he gave everything he had to the Colts this year. And that goes a long way in thinking about what his future might be with this team. But again, there's going to be interest from other teams. And then the question becomes, okay, well, what does the contract look like? I think your blueprint is the blueprint that got thrown out before the season even started in terms of the kind of player that, Daniel Jones could be, which would be that Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold type. Go look at those guys' contracts, and maybe that's the ballpark we're looking at for Daniel Jones. I don't know. Again, there's a lot to consider here, and a lot goes into that we can't really decipher in December, a week after Daniel Jones has a procedure to repair his torn Achilles. But I do think this is not I think a lot of people are looking for a black and white yes or no answer for Daniel Jones and what, is he going to be back on the Colts next year? There's a lot of gray. There's a lot of things that need to be played out and a lot of things to consider beyond he was having a great season and then he torn his Achilles. So there's a lot to get into there, a lot I'm sure we will get into as we get into the offseason. We hear from Chris Ballard right after the season. We get to the NFL Combine down in downtown Indianapolis at the end of February. That will be another big marker for where this thing's going. The franchise tag window will be open around then, and then you get into free agency in mid-March, and we'll see where it goes. But I think the larger point here is a torn Achilles that happens in early December is not necessarily something that he's going to be out until mid-November. We'll see where it goes. And then Daniel Jones, you look at his season, and I was just thinking about some of the throws he was making, some of the plays he was making. Remember that one against Arizona where he fitted into a tight window almost behind Alec Pierce? Those kind of throws are things that you can build on as an offense, and I would be fascinated to see if the Colts can go ahead and build on it next year if everything works out and they are able to bring him back. Again, we'll see. Julia, thank you for the question. Thanks for watching the Colts Show every week. Remember, if you want to get involved in the show, get at me on social media, drop a comment here in the YouTube comments for this episode, or go to Colts.com/mailbag. That's going to do it for this episode of The Colts Show. We are presented by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC, where every day is game day. I'll be back next week with another Hall of Fame discussion with the great Mike Chappell, who has more insight into the Hall of Fame process than anyone else here in Indianapolis. Really excited for that episode to kind of piggyback off this episode with Adam Vinatieri. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching to this episode of The Colts Show, presented by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC. Talk to you next week. So long.